حديث كيف؟ Of course. No stopping. Back. Normal.
Thank you. أعوذ بالله. يا الله. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. عن فاطمة الزهراء عليها السلام. أفلح من صلى على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. عن فاطمة الزهراء عليها السلام بنت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله قال: سمعت فاطمة عليها السلام أنها قالت: دخل علي أبي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله في بعض الأيام فقال: السلام عليك يا فاطمة. فقلت: عليك السلام. قال: إني أجد في بدني ضعفا. فقلت له: أعيذك بالله يا أبتاه من الضعف. فقال: يا فاطمة أتيني بالكساء اليماني فغطيني به. فأتيته بالكساء اليماني فغطيته به وصرت أنظر إليه وإذا وجهه يتلألأ كأنه البدر في ليلة تمامه وكماله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولد الحسن عليه السلام قد أقبل وقال: السلام عليك يا أماه. فقلت: عليك السلام يا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي. فقال: يا أماه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جدي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله. فقلت: نعم، إن جدك تحت الكساء. فأقبل الحسن عليه السلام نحو الكساء وقال: السلام عليك يا جداه يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أدخل معك تحت الكساء؟ فقال: وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا صاحب حوضي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل معه تحت الكساء. فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولد الحسين عليه السلام قد أقبل وقال: السلام عليك يا أماه. فقلت: وعليك السلام يا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي. فقال لي: يا أماه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جدي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله. فقلت: نعم، أن جدك وأخاك تحت الكساء. فدنا الحسين عليه السلام نحو الكساء وقال: السلام عليك يا جداه، السلام عليك يا من اختاره الله، أتأذن لي أن أكون معكما تحت الكساء؟ فقال: وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا شافع أمتي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل معهما تحت الكساء. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. فأقبل عند ذلك أبو الحسن علي بن أبي طالب عليه السلام وقال: السلام عليك يا بنت رسول الله. فقلت: وعليك السلام يا أبا الحسن ويا أمير المؤمنين. فقال: يا فاطمة إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة أخي وابن عمي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله. فقلت: نعم، ها هو مع ولديك تحت الكساء. فأقبل علي عليه السلام نحو الكساء وقال: السلام عليك يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ قال له: عليك السلام يا أخي ووصي وخليفتي وصاحب لوائي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل علي عليه السلام تحت الكساء. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. ثم أتيت نحو الكساء وقلت: السلام عليك يا أبتاه، يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ قال: وعليك السلام يا بنتي ويا بضعتي، قد أذنت لك. فدخلت تحت الكساء. فلما اكتملنا جميعا تحت الكساء، أخذ أبي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله بطرفي الكساء، وأومأ بيده اليمنى إلى السماء وقال: اللهم إن هؤلاء أهل بيتي وخاصتي وحامتي، لحمهم لحمي ودمهم دمي، يؤلمني ما يؤلمهم، ويحزنني ما يحزنهم. أنا حرب لمن حاربهم، وسلم لمن سالمهم، وعدو لمن عاداهم، ومحب لمن أحبهم. إنهم مني وأنا منهم، فاجعل صلواتك وبركاتك ورحمتك وغفرانك ورضوانك علي وعليهم، وأذهب عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. فقال الله عز وجل: يا ملائكتي ويا سكان سماواتي، إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرضا مدحية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيئة ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا في محبة هؤلاء الخمسة الذين هم تحت الكساء. فقال الأمين جبرائيل عليه السلام: يا ربي ومن تحت الكساء؟ فقال الله عز وجل: هم أهل بيت النبوة ومعدن الرسالة، هم فاطمة وأبوها وبعلها وبنوها. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. فقال جبرائيل عليه السلام: يا رب، أتأذن لي أن أهبط إلى الأرض لأكون معهم سادسا؟ فقال الله عز وجل: نعم، أذنت لك. فهبط الأمين جبرائيل عليه السلام وقال: السلام عليك يا رسول الله، العلي الأعلى يقرئك السلام ويخصك بالتحية والإكرام، ويقول لك: وعزتي وجلالي، إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرضا مدحية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيئة ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا لأجلكم ومحبتكم، وقد أذن لي أن أدخل معكم، فهل تأذن لي يا رسول الله؟ فقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله: عليك السلام يا أمين وحي الله، إنه نعم، قد أذنت لك. فدخل جبرائيل عليه السلام معنا تحت الكساء، فقال لأبي: إن الله عز وجل قد أوحى إليكم يقول: إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. فقال علي عليه السلام لأبي: يا رسول الله، أخبرني ما لجلوسنا هذا تحت الكساء من الفضل عند الله. فقال النبي صلى الله عليه وآله: والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا، ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا إلا ونزلت عليهم الرحمة وحفت بهم الملائكة واستغفرت لهم إلى أن يتفرقوا. فقال علي عليه السلام: إذن والله فزنا وفاز شيعتنا ورب الكعبة. فقال أبي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله: يا علي، والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا، ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا، وفيهم مهموم إلا وفرج الله همه، ولا مغموم إلا وكشف الله غمه، ولا طالب حاجة إلا وقضى الله حاجته. فقال علي عليه السلام: إذن والله فزنا وسعدنا، وكذلك شيعتنا فازوا وسعدوا في الدنيا والآخرة ورب الكعبة. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله يسلمك.
Yes, yes. Okay. So, Majlis-e-Aza.
Yes, there. Click on him or
Anybody wants to recite Subut or Salam?
يا محمد وآل محمد صلوات.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. برائے خوشنودی امام زمانہ بلندتر صلوات.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
پردیس میں زینب کو بیٹھی 18 برس کے پالے کو روتے ہیں کڑے سب آل نبی، روتے ہیں کڑے سب آل نبی، 18 برس کے پالے کو پردیس ارمانہ نکلا بانوں کا، ہے لاش پہ بانوں کا، پائے گی کہاں اب کو جلی، پائے گی کہاں اب کو جلی، 18 برس کے پالے کو پردیس دل تھام کے اکبر کی مادر سرور سے یہ کہتی ہے رو کر کیوں آئے کہاں اے بین علی کھوائے کہاں اے بین علی، 18 برس کے پالے کو پردیس نازوں سے مرادوں سے پالا، شادی کا زمانہ جب آیا، میدان میں کھو کر بیٹھ گئی، میدان میں کھو کر بیٹھ گئی، 18 برس کے پالے کو پردیس میں بے چین دل تھے حضرت باقر کی یاد میں، سامان غم تھا فرق پاک کے اقتدار میں، تھا جشن عید خانہ اہل اناد میں، گویا بہار آئی تھی باغ مراد میں، گویا بہار آئی تھی باغ مراد میں، خوش تھے کہ بارود شجر مدعا ہوا، ایک تازہ گل علی کے چمن سے جدا ہوا، ایک تازہ گل علی کے چمن سے جدا ہوا، قربان ملک تھے جعفر صادق کی شان پر، حافظ فدا تھے مصحف ناطق کی شان پر، مولا تو جانتے تھے خالق کی شان پر، معشوق کو بھی ناز تھا عاشق کی شان پر، قائل زبان ہر ایک منافق کی ہو گئی، عالم میں دوم الفت صادق کی ہو گئی، عالم میں دوم الفت صادق کی ہو گئی، راضی قضا پر تھا وہ جگر بند مرتضی، کرتا ہے ایک شخص یہ وصف شہیدہ، بیمار کوئی آپ کا طفل ملخا، دولت سراپے اس کی ہدایت کو میں گیا، حضرت کھڑے ہوئے تھے جہاں میں سلام کو پایا، مگر اداس امام انعام کو پایا، مگر اداس امام انعام کو، پوچھا کہ پہلے رنگ تھا اب کیوں نہیں ملال، بولے ہم اہل بیت نبی کا یہی حیال، غم کا دم نزول بلا کہتے ہیں خیال، نازل ہو گئی تو کیا شکر ذل جلال، تسلیم کس طرح نرز کبریا کی ہو، بندے کا دخل کیا جو مشیت خدا کی ہو، بندے کا دخل کیا جو مشیت خدا کی ہو، باقی کے لخت دلے کو نایاب کبھی غضب، تابع خدا کے حکم تھا اور سرور عرب، کرتا تھا صبر ناصر دین حبیب رب، دیتا صدا میں آپ کو منصور بے ادب، فرعون عصر پھر گیا فخر کلیم سے، کینا تھا سنگ سخت کو دور یتیم سے، کینا تھا سنگ سخت کو دور یتیم سے، رہتی تھی اس کو شام سر فکر قتل شاہ، جلتا تھا آفتاب امامت سے روسیا، تھی آرزو کے خانے حیدر ہو پھر تباہ، ہو بے امام خادم سلطان دی پناہ، سادات بطلائے بلائے عظیم ہو، جعفر و قتل موسیٰ کاظم یتیم ہو، جعفر و قتل موسیٰ کاظم یتیم ہو، صدف سنگے دل کو نہ کچھ اس کا تھا خیال، میں ماں میرا ہے گلشنے باخر کا نونہال، منصور کا بھی ترک وفا میں وہی تحال، جیسے یزید ابن زیاد زبوں خصال، کس طرح ظالموں نے ستایا حسین को, लूटा बुला के घर से शह मशरक़ैन को, लूटा बुला के घर से शह मशरक़ैन को। हक़े वली का दुश्मने जानी था रूसिया, सब आफतों से बच चुके वतन में जब शेषा, वो ज़ुल्म हो गया कि मदीना हुआ तबाह। अंगूर ने इमाम को दिलवा जहर दिया, अंगूर ने इमाम को दिलवाया जहरा। सरवल यादी का जब हाल हो गया, सरसब्ज़ बाग़े दीन का पामाल हो गया, सरसब्ज़ बाग़े दीन का पामाल हो गया।
So we are having this 3 nights program for Shahadat of our 6th Imam, Imam Jafar-e-Sadiq alayhi salam. Today is the second program in this series of the 3 nights program. We will continue to have our last lecture tomorrow. We will also have a tabut, so please make sure that you attend the program tomorrow as well. And we are working as the executive committee of NEJAF to bring forward these programs to the community, and also we are open to new ideas. We are trying to invite speakers who can shed light on newer areas, relevant topics. So please feel free to reach Brother Akbar, Maulana Agha Mehdi if you have any ideas or suggestions. We also need your support in organizing these programs. So if you want to sponsor an event, please reach out to Brother Murtaza, or you can reach out to Brother Kumail for sponsoring the program. There is a cost to sponsor these programs, and we are in need of funds. As you are all aware, we are paying a mortgage here as well, and then we also have these additional programming needs. So we are looking for your support as well. The programs at NEJAF, here we have the regular programs. We just wrapped up a wonderful Eid program after the 30 nights of the Ramzan programs. And then we continue to have a very vibrant Sunday school. Our Sunday school right now has registration in excess of 90, close to 100 students. And it's all from level 1 for 4 years old up to the level 10 and 11. So please make sure if you have kids or if you have younger ones, they are part of the community, they are attending the schools. If you have gone past this age and if you want to contribute in any way, be it volunteership, be it any kind of a teaching, if you're interested in, you can reach out to Maulana Saab and be a part of this, this endeavor. And we will shortly have actually our Quran competition. We are reaching out to a very famous Qari of Quran, and shortly we'll be announcing the details for those programs as well. So please stay tuned for more communication on the Quran competition. With that, a loud salawat.
Since I will be reciting a majlis in Connecticut, I wanted to thank Sheikh Jafar-e-Sadiq from the bottom of my heart. And it was an honor and pleasure to have you here. And inshallah, I'm going to put him on the spot. We need to get his first ashra booked. We don't let him leave the building without you get the first ashra from him. A loud salawat for him.
And I'll ask Brother Kumail to
Assalamu alaikum, Mu'mineen. First of all, we are very lucky to have Sheikh Jafar in our presence, and a loud salawat for Sheikh Jafar Lada. So the lectures from yesterday's majlis, today's majlis, and inshallah tomorrow's majlis are from Sheikh Jafar Ladak's book called Prospering Through a Cost of Living Crisis. And we are lucky to have these books available today in the building, both in the ladies section as well as the men's section. And the hadiah for these books is $10. We do accept cash. If you do want to purchase the book but do not have cash, we do have different methods of payments available. So please reach out to myself on the men's section and reach out to Sister Sahar on the ladies section on how you can purchase this book. With that, please recite a loud salawat. And with this, I would like to invite Sheikh Jafar Ladak to come on the member.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. For the love of our sixth Imam, Jafar ibn Muhammad as-Sadiq, salamullahi alayhima, let us have a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين سيدنا الممجد بشير المصدق المصطفى الأمجد محمود الأحمد أبي القاسم محمد. اللهم صل وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين واللعنة الله على الظالمين من الأولين والآخرين. أما بعد، فقال الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه المجيد وفرقانه الحميد وقوله الحق: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يسألونك ماذا ينفقون قل العفو آمنا بالله صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل. Awaited Savior of humanity, Imam al-Mahdi alayhi salam, my respected teachers, elders, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. All thanks belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who has granted us this tawfiq to gather together to remember our sixth Imam, Jafar ibn Muhammad as-Sadiq, salawatullah wa salamuhu alayhi. Our series over these 3 nights is to discuss the Islamic economic system, or at least a part of it, at a local community level. Yesterday, we started with looking at the topic of how wealth is redistributed in Islam. And the verse that we focused on was from Surah Al-Baqarah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala quotes the companions who would come to the Prophet and they would say, يَسْأَلُونَكَ مَاذَا يُنْفِقُونَ? Ya Rasulullah, what should we spend in the way of Islam? The response came, قُلْ الْعَفْوَ. Say, Ya Rasulullah, to spend whatever is surplus to your needs. And we also recognize the hadith from Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib, salawatullah wa salamuhu alayhi, from Nahj al-Balagha, in which Imam alayhi salam says that whatever you earn which is above your needs, you are but a treasurer of that for someone else. It is not mine and yours to spend. That rizq has been given to me, yes, but for me to be able to give it to someone else, I'm a treasurer of it, and I'm not supposed to be consuming it for myself. This would genuinely redistribute wealth to people across the world. If only we were to know and to apply this particular system to ourselves. Yesterday, in the beginning of the lecture, I started with a story. I don't know if you remember it, and I wanted to conclude, but time ran short, and it was better that we kept within the time. And the story in brief was that the French philosopher who started the encyclopedia, the compilation of the encyclopedia in 1765 by the name of Denis Diderot, the Empress of Russia, Catherine the Great, bought his entire library for approximately, in today's value, $150,000, but allowed him to keep it. And with that money, he bought for himself a very expensive red outfit. And then he said to himself, the unity in my house has been lost. Everything previously was of a humble nature, and now this one garment stands out as being so expensive, so lavish. What did he do? He decided to repurchase everything in his house. Specifically, for example, instead of having an ordinary rug, he bought a rug from Damascus, changing all of the features of his house in order to reach the standard of his one piece of clothing that he had bought for himself. This is called the Diderot effect, where a person who has one thing then feels that they need to be able to purchase everything else to be in line with that one expensive item. Now, in the context of yesterday's discussion of redistribution of wealth, and the idea of our surplus not being our own, but actually we are a treasurer of it for someone else, who can tell me what is the relationship between the Diderot effect, this story, and the ayah and the hadith and the learning that we came across yesterday? What do you think? Conflict in which way? One says distribute your surplus. The Diderot effect tells you spend more on yourself. Exactly. What else?
First of all, the robe itself, the red robe which wanted was a surplus thing which he wanted. When there was no need for it, because of the robe, all other things rose up automatically and they became surplus. Whereas one piece of cloth, standard of everything in place belonged to the
Ahsant. So he bought one item which was well above his needs, and as a result of that, he then had to buy everything else which was also above his needs. The question is, if I earn money, do I do that as well? You see, sometimes a person, alhamdulillah, they get a promotion in their job, or they get a better job, or they now reach to a higher level of earning, and immediately all the spending goes up at the same time, doesn't it? The house goes up, and then now that I bought a new house, I need the better car to go with the better house to be in line with all of my neighbors. And now I need to be able to make sure I kit out that house that has an appropriate level of, furniture inside it, so I spend more. Previously, I'm giving an example, again, I just give broad numbers. If I was earning $3,000 a month, I made sure that I lived within that means of $3,000 a month. But now I'm on $10,000 a month, my spending goes up to $10,000 a month. But I proved that it's normal, it's possible for me to live on $3,000 as an example. What makes us think that we should have that jump in spending? And what actually happens is that if previously I was earning whatever, $3,000 a month and spending $3,000 a month, I was at zero. Then I go to $10,000 a month. I spend $10,000 a month. I'm still at zero. I'm just as poor as I was before. You see that? I'm still chasing my tail. I'm still having to make sure I find that money to be able to make the payment every month. Can you see? This is called the Diderot effect. And this is what we end up doing. And this is antithetical towards Islamic ideals, and especially in the context of the discussion last night on redistribution of wealth. We can see how we end up getting trapped into this cycle of finding ways to spend more than I actually need. Whereas if I realized that I didn't need this, then I could actually redistribute it to a person who is genuinely in need. Now, in the book, one of the questions we go through is, once I have a surplus, whatever that is, it's $50 a month, it's $5,000 a month, whatever the surplus is, whom has a right over that wealth? Is it everybody and anybody? If you have a $500 surplus a month, do I have right over it? Can I come up to you and say, do you mind if I take that $500? That's very kind of you. A lot of people are now offering me $500 a month. Thank you. The real question is, from the perspective of the Sharia, whom has a right over that money? Because if you are a treasurer of it for someone else, whom has the ability to take that money from you? So in the second chapter of the book, we go through that. I won't go through it here because we want to be able to talk about another aspect of the book, which we're talking about tonight, inshallah. According to the ahadith of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, they have told us that they prefer that we give loans to people instead of giving them charity. Sadaqah. Where necessary, we can give sadaqah. But the preference is for us to be able to give a loan to someone and not sadaqah. And so as part of the discussion on redistribution of wealth, this is the next topic that I want to be able to talk about tonight, inshallah. As I mentioned to you yesterday, there were some 3 major problems with the structure of the way we utilize our wealth within the community. I mentioned to you, number 1, the hadith from our 6th Imam. He says the only reason why a person is left poor is because of the sins of the wealthy. And we said wealthy is anyone who has surplus, anyone who has excess, number 1. Number 2, there is the donor agency relationship. The donor, me and you, who wants to do good with our money, we want to find a place to be able to give it to. By and large, who determines where we give that money to? The agency, the aid agency, the welfare agency, advertises to us and says, we have these projects available. And we say, MashaAllah, this is excellent. Let me give my $100, my $1,000 in this particular direction. The question I raised yesterday was, well, whom said that this is the system of Islam? That says that the donor, me, and the aid agency determine where the wealth of the ummah goes. Is that actually the system? Or is it supposed to be in the hands of the Quran, Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, and the ulama to determine those things? Number 3, the third major problem with the system that we have is that we are being advertised to. And like any other advert, it is based on emotional manipulation. When a child comes to you and says that they've seen something on the TV and they want to have this particular thing for Christmas or for Eid, they've been advertised to. They don't know that they're being advertised to and falling into the trap, but you as an adult know it. But do we not realize that when we see a picture, an emotive picture of a yatima with one shoe, sadly in front of a broken house, maybe it's been bombed by Al Saud, maybe it's had an earthquake in Syria, all of these things, and we see it, well, that image is being used for what reason? To make you feel sorry for that child and want to put your hand in your pocket and give. And of course, giving to that child is very good. Again, the question is that the way the Islamic system ought to work? Now, what we tend to do, we tend to give sadaqah to that child, don't we? Take $50 every month in a subscription or whatever, and we'll give. Again, I ask a follow-up question. How many of our Islamic and Shi'i charitable organizations ask for loans over charity? The vast majority seek charitable donations from you. Whereas tonight, what I want to show you is that Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam have preferenced loans over charity. And not only that, I want to show you why and how that system in terms of redistribution of wealth was supposed to work, or at least in the system as per the Quran and Ahadith. And again, I'm not speaking at the international level. I'm talking to you as an immediate community, that you will have families that are in need. You will have projects that you want to fulfill. And this is something that I want to be able to demonstrate for you and I to be able to reflect on tonight, inshallah, with your blessings and the love of our sixth Imam. Aloud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Here are the slides, again, like yesterday, inshallah, with the ayat and the ahadith for mine and your perusal. Our sixth Imam, Jafar-e-Sadiq, salawatullah wa salamuhu alayh, is narrated to have said, لأن أقرض قرضا أحب إلي من أن أتصدق بمثله. That I give a loan is more beloved to me than if I were to give charity to the same amount. Hadith from our sixth Imam. And as I said yesterday, anyone who wants these slides, it is available to them. A more full discussion is in the book, but you are very welcome to these slides. That I give a loan, ahabbu ilayya, it is more beloved to me than if I give the same amount in charity. Now, according to our ahadith and our ulama, there are 4 reasons as to why loans, qarz, is more beloved than giving sadaqah. What do you think? What's your opinion? Why do you think Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam said this? How does it generate income from the poor? Brilliant. So that they use the money as an investment. But they may not use it as an investment. You may just have to pay off a debt. So you're right, it could be that it's an investment, but at face value, just simply giving a loan, why is it preferable to giving charity? Its relationship to charity specifically. Ahsant. Okay. So the first 2 reasons are here. If I give, or if you give me charity, I don't have to pay it back. It's been given to me. And I can consume it however I want to be able to utilize it, correct? There's no motivation to give it back. But if you give me a loan, I have to find a way to pay it back, number 1. So I have to find some work, or I have to sell something. I have to generate some amount. If you lend me $10,000, I have to find a way to pay it back, don't I? So I have to get a job, or I have to sell something, or I have to do something constructive in order to pay it back. So it's better than sadaqah because it makes sure that I have to become active in some way, number 1. Number 2, I give the $10,000 back to you, don't I? What can you do with that then? Ahsan, he can use the money again. You see, if he only gives me a charity of $10,000, then he never gets it back. He can't give it to someone else. But if you're in need and I'm in need, I give it back. He can then give you $10,000. How many people have now benefited? 2 people have benefited. or maybe 3. He can split it, 5,000 here, 5,000 there, as an example. He can benefit more and more and more people. Do you understand? Now, this was actually given to us in a hadith by the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. ألف درهم أقرضها مرتين أحب إلي من أتصدق بها مرة. 1,000 dirhams that I can loan out twice is more beloved to me than giving that same amount in charity once. So the first reason why loans are better is because I have to work to pay it back. The second reason is then you can utilize it again. Second reason. Third reason, another hadith comes to us from the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi. More often than not, a person who seeks a loan genuinely needs it. But the person who asks for charity, you don't know if they really need it. Hadith from the Prophet. So if you ask for a loan, more often than not, I will know your situation or know you personally. If I don't know you at all, I've never met you, are you going to come to me and ask for your loan? No. But at least if we have some knowledge of each other and I know that you are a trustworthy person, you may come to me and say, Jafar, can you please lend me $1,000 till the end of the month? I say, no problem. Are you okay? The more likelihood is that you can trust someone who has asked for a loan than someone who just asked for charity, according to the hadith of the Prophet. Reason number 3. Reason number 4. If you came and asked for the loan, you see, it builds bonds between each other. Can you see? Now I get to know your situation better. I'm looking out for you. I'm caring for you. At least in theory, the way the Islamic brotherhood is supposed to work. I will make dua for you. You, having received $1,000, maybe you will make dua for me as well. Can you see? Brotherhood strengthens by knowing each other's circumstances, by supporting one another through the difficult circumstances. Fourth reason as to why it is better. Sometimes, especially in the model that we have today, if someone gives charity, it reaches someone in Afghanistan, in Syria, in Iraq, you've forgotten about it. You know, to the extent that it's just a direct debit out of your account every month. You don't even notice it anymore. There's nothing going on consciously here to remind you that you're doing something good, to help someone. Someone on the other side of the world is in need. Someone local is in need. It's just done. Whereas when we engage with one another, there is a constructive brotherhood that is being built. Can you see? 4 reasons as to why loans are better than sadaqah. Now, there are 2 types of loans in Islam. One of which is an ordinary type of qard, and the second is called qard al-hasana. The ordinary one is the type of loan in which you give and then you will seek it back. You lend me $10,000, you seek it back, I give it to you. Qard al-hasana is where either from the beginning or the during of the period of the loan, you intend to write off either the entirety of the loan or partially of the loan. This is the difference between qard al-hasana. So what I want to be able to show you now is some of the finer details of how a community benefits from both qard and qard al-hasana on a practical level, for us to think about what we're doing with our surplus money. If I have 3,000 surplus at the end of the month, how should I be utilizing it? Where should it be going into? Should I simply be giving it as sadaqah? Or is there actually a better economic system of investment that is available to us? Now, little couple of points here about some fiqh and some ahadith that come to us. Sheikh is expert. Always at the end of it, please go and ask Sheikh for follow-up and detail of ahkam. As you know, riba is haram in the Islamic system, correct? Everybody knows this? To charge interest is haram in the Islamic system. If you put a condition, if I lend $1,000 to you and I put any condition whatsoever, this is considered riba. So riba is not simply monetary interest. Riba is any type of manfa'a, any type of benefit. It might be that I lend you $1,000 and I say, this weekend I want you to come mow my lawn for me. Even that is considered riba. If I put it as a condition upon you, it is haram, and this would make it invalid for me to be able to conduct this transaction with you. So no benefit can be conditioned when someone gives a loan. However, benefit can be taken as long as there is no condition attached to it. Let us say I loan you $1,000 and you say, I will try to get this $1,000 back to you and I will give you 100 more. Am I allowed to accept a gift of $100? Yes, I am. You can decide to do that as a thank you gesture. As you said, someone might lend a loan, you make a profit from the business. You say, I'll take this $1,000 and if I make profit, I will give you 10% of the first amount of profit that I make. I haven't put it as a condition upon you. You have offered it to me. It is permissible for me to accept it. Wonderful, wonderful akhlaqi hadith from Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib salawatullah wa salamuhu alayhi. One of the companions came to him and said, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, I lent someone a certain amount of money and he gave me a gift. What should I do with this gift? Is it permissible for me to take this? He said, yes. It's not only permissible for you to take the gift, but deduct it from the amount that you have loaned to him. Just imagine, let's say I lend you $1,000, you give me a gift worth 100. The akhlaqi thing for me to do is to make the debt $900 now. Such beautiful akhlaq from Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam. So benefit can be conferred, but not with any condition, not with any stipulation. Now here it becomes very beneficial, very useful to mu'mineen. When we were driving in the car earlier on, Sayyid mentioned that in traditional economic theory, there's three sort of areas. What were the three? Land, labor, and capital. Everybody's heard of this? Yes, sort of, more or less, land, labor, and capital. So everyone should bring something to the table, right? Someone is bringing the land, someone is bringing the labor, and someone is bringing the capital. Therefore, if I'm going to give you my capital, I should benefit. This is why interest is being charged. If I put in $100,000, I should be able to put in 10% charge every single year, for example. That's the way the system works here, right? In many other places in the world. So I asked Sayyid, land, labor, capital. What's missing? What's the fourth element missing? Allah Jalla Jalaluhu is missing. When you have land, who gave you the land? Who? Allah. When you have labor, who gave you that labor? Allah. And when you have capital, who gave you the capital? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you the capital. It's not yours. You were given this to be able to utilize it within His laws. So it cannot just be that, oh, I suddenly found myself having $100,000 and I give it to you. No. Where did you get that 100,000 from in the first place? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But because Islam seeks to build brotherhood, whenever you see interest being charged, there is an exploiter and an exploited. And this is the basic problem with loans which are attached to it. Riba. If I lend $100,000 and I'm gaining interest from it, I haven't done any work to be able to gain that additional money. So I am exploiting you when I'm asking for additional money back. And you, by having now taken that interest rate upon you, you are being exploited. It's your work. You should give back to me the amount that I borrowed to you. This is why it's haram. From the Islamic perspective, what Islam wants is to build brotherhood, unity, cooperation, direction with one another. And so it doesn't allow for riba to take place, where manfa'a and benefit is made as a shart, but it allows benefit to take place when one party offers it or offers something else in some way of benefit, so that the one who is lending you the money also has some benefit from it. If I'm lending it to you, yes, in akhirah I'm getting thawab, but there should also be some dunyawi return as well. The Western world uses riba, whereas we have a slightly different system that we want to be able to utilize as a means of conferring benefit to one another when a loan is given. Many ahadith come to us from Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. One hadith from our sixth Imam Jafar-e-Sadiq salawatullah wa salamuhu alayhi. إذا أخرجت الدراهم ثم جاءك بخير منها فلا بأس إذا لم يكن بينكما شرط. If I lend to you some money, then you come to me with some khair, some benefit from it, لا بأس, no problem, so long as there is not a shart placed between the two of us. If I lend you something and you then come to me with some benefit, so long as I have not placed it as a condition upon you, then there is no harm in you giving something back. That way I am benefiting by the money that I have lent out. Let's have a look a little deeper as to what this might be. Another hadith from our sixth Imam Jafar-e-Sadiq salawatullah wa salamuhu alayhi. عن الرجل يستقرض من الرجل قرضا ويعطيه الرهن إما خادما إما آنية إما ثيابا. Now a person has come and loaned to a person an amount, and there's been some rahan that has come out of it. Maybe he has lent on the other side, or he's put down or something on the other side, a servant or some tool or some clothing. يحتاج إلى شيء من منفعته فيستأذن فيه فيأذن له. So a person has come and given a loan, and the other person has given something back in return, maybe a servant or some tools or something. Is it permissible for you to be able to do this? He has some need. The first person who was lent the money has some need. You know what my need is, and you give me something back in return to meet my needs. Is this permissible? قال إذا طابت نفسه فلا بأس. If you give it out of the kindness of your own heart, no problem. If I've lent you 10,000 and you give me something back in return, as long as you've given it from the goodness of what you want to me, no problem for you to give it, no problem for me to be able to use it. قلت, the companion said, but amongst us, عندنا يرون أن كل قرض يجر منفعه فهو فاسد. But we have a hadith amongst us, very famous, that any time that there is some benefit from a loan, this makes the loan fasid, this corrupts the loan. How can we have any riba, any benefit from amongst us? أوليس خير القرض ما جر منفعه. Is it not that the best part of the loan, the best thing that comes from the loan is some benefit from it? Normally what we've only been told is, if you take some riba from the loan, it is haram, which is correct. But actually, if the one who is taking the loan wants to give some benefit back, then this is actually from the mustahabbat that is possible for us. As long as there is no condition. Ahsantum, barakallahu feekum. Now why is this important? Because as we said earlier on, The Islamic view is what? Building unity amongst us, building benefit amongst us, building brotherhood and cooperation amongst us. You have some expertise. You have something that you can offer back to me. If I lend you that amount and then you decide that you have some expertise or knowledge and you offer it to me, I'm also benefiting. We are both developing and growing together. Can you see? Now, again, go back to the first part of our discussion. Loans are better than charity. Can you see here? If I simply give you $1,000 in charity, that's the end of it, isn't it? You've consumed it. But actually now, the fifth reason as to why it might be better if you give a loan is that person with their expertise will come and give me some benefit back. It could be something so tiny. I'm not very good at doing tax returns, by the way. So if any of you are accountants and you need a loan, please feel free to come and do my tax returns because I hate them, absolutely. Can you see? But if I put it as a condition upon you, then it is haram. If you offer some benefit. Now think about this. How much ilm is there just in this room? How much can this community with its collective knowledge give to each other? Experts, people who are dynamic, people who know where to invest, people who have a speciality, people who have been training in a certain field for 5, 10, 20, 30 years. Can you imagine if we were to actually support one another the way Islam encourages us to support one another? How much our community could prosper? How much we would push one another to become better and achieve? This is why Ahlul Bayt alayhim wassalam said, loans are preferable to charity. The second type of loan, so the first type of loan was an ordinary loan. I give you and I get the loan back. This is qarth. Second type of qarth is what is known as qardhul hasana. What is qardhul hasana? Either at the beginning or during the period of the loan, you decide to write off the entirety of the amount or a partial amount. And this is mentioned in the Quran. Both types of loans are mentioned in the Quran. In Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 280, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, وَإِن كَانَ ذُو عُسْرَةٍ فَنَظِرَةٌ إِلَى مَيْسَرَةٍ. If it is difficult for someone to repay a debt, postpone it until a time of ease. This is the first type of loan. If I lend you 10,000 and you're finding it difficult, I shouldn't call in the debt. I should delay it until it is easy for you. But I'm still expecting the money back. This is the first type of loan, qarth. The second type is qardul hasana, to waive a part of it or the entirety of it. وَأَنْ أَتَصَدَّقُوا خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ إِن كُنْتُمْ تَعْلَمُونَ. And if you waive it as an act of charity, it is even better for you if only you knew the rewards for waiving a part or the entirety of the loan. Many ayat are mentioning the importance of qardul hasana. I'm just going to mention two for the barakah of the Quran. Who will make a good loan to Allah, which He will repay many times over? If you want to give qardul hasana, Allah will repay it. Why? Because whom are you lending to? To Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you are regular in prayer, give the alms and believe in my messengers and support them and lend Allah a benevolent loan, I, Allah, will cleanse you of your bad deeds and admit you into the gardens with flowing rivers. So, qardul hasana looks at a person's situation and says, I understand that you are in a difficult situation. You probably won't be able to pay it back. Or it's so difficult for you to pay it back at this moment in time. Alhamdulillah, Allah has given me enough. I don't need the $5,000 back. Keep it. This is qardul hasana. And it brings with it extreme rewards for someone to be able to do this. The next part of the discussion is to think about the rewards. Now, you won't be surprised that our ahadith are replete with narrations from Ahl al-Bayt alayhimus salam describing the levels of reward available to a person who wants to give qard or qard al-hasana. And I'm just picking two, and I want to show you the difference between the two, and I want you to tell me, why is there a difference between the two rewards? And what does that actually tell you about the importance of qard al-hasana? First hadith from our Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi. By the way, all of these ahadith that I brought you are from Wasa'il al-Shia or Mustadrak al-Wasa'il. The Prophet says, whoever lends his Muslim brother a loan, for every dirham it would be worth the weight of the mountain of Uhud from the mountains of Radwa, and yield the goodness of Mount Sinai. Now these are huge mountains. Mount Uhud, Mount Radwa, the collection of the mountains in Medina, and Mount Sinai. Anyone here ever climbed Mount Sinai? You know it's possible, right? If you go to Egypt, don't just go to Sharm el-Sheikh or something, yeah? Just also try to climb Mount Sinai and be in the place where revelation came to as well. Look at the reward that the Prophet is offering you here for giving loan. If the seeker, it continues in the same hadith, if the seeker were to be kind in his asking, it counts for him on the day of judgment like moving so quickly, like the flash of lightning, without any accounting nor punishment. The seeker who wants his loan back, yeah, if you are kind to the person who borrowed from you, the reward is on the day of judgment that you would move so quickly like a flash of lightning without any accounting for your punishment. But the one who complains about his Muslim brother asking for the loan and does not lend to him, Allah prohibits from him paradise on the day of judgment, in which that is the day to pay people back their good deeds. Now just think about this hadith for a second. It's very important. Think about it. Is it permissible, if you come to me and say, I need a loan, Jafar, is it permissible for me not to give it to you? If I don't want to give you, can I not give it? I can, right? And you say, I need the money for myself. Or maybe I just don't want to give it to you. Correct? I'm within my rights not to have to give it to you. Everybody agree? But what does the hadith say? Look at this hadith. It's very interesting. But if the one who complains about his Muslim brother and does not lend to him, Allah prohibits from him paradise. Now just hold on to the hadith for a second in your minds. The first part of the hadith gave a quite brilliant level of reward, didn't it? Your reward is like that of the Mount Uhud and Mount Sinai. And on the day of judgment, you would pass through like a bolt of lightning and no have any hisab. But if you don't lend, paradise is prohibited from you. Very strange hadith, very thought-provoking hadith. You should ask, why? I'll ask you why in a minute. The last hadith I want to show you is from our sixth Imam, Jafar-e-Sadiq, salawatullah wa salamuhu alayhi. Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam is narrated to have said, there is no Muslim who lends a qard al-hasana to a fellow Muslim just seeking the pleasure of Allah, but that it would be counted for him like giving sadaqah until it is paid back. MashaAllah. You give qard al-hasana until it is paid back to you. You've intended, look, if you can't pay it back, don't pay it back. But then if the guy can pay it back, it's like giving charity. That's the level of reward that comes with it. Number one, question number one. Which hadith offers you more reward? The first one. Yes? No disagreement. Correct? First one gives greater reward. In the second hadith, there's no suggestion of prohibition. It's only talking about reward. I'm asking you, why is there such a heavy reward in the first hadith and a less heavy reward? Still a great reward, but a less heavy reward in the second hadith. And why is there a prohibition, a threat of prohibition in the first hadith from the Prophet? You're all budding mujtahideen. This is a Bahth al-Kharij class, and we're all learning about ahadith from Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam. Tell me. In what sense it's unconditional? In what sense do you mean it's unconditional? And in the second?
Second one, you are putting a condition.
Ahsant. So both of them about loans.
Yes.
In the second one, there's no condition because it's qadr hasana. So in the first one with the Prophet, he doesn't say qadr hasana. He just says qard. In the second hadith, it's specifically qadr hasana, which is more rewardable. Yet, in the hadith of the Prophet, qard is given a greater daraja of reward, even though qadr hasana is better. Because qadr hasana says from the beginning, my niyyah is, look, if you can't pay it back, just keep the whole money. Let me ask a question and it will probably gift some ideas. What is the difference in the time of the needs of the ummah of the Prophet versus the needs of the ummah at the time of the sixth Imam? Shall I ask another question to make it easier? Yeah? If you've all just migrated from Mecca to Medina with the Prophet, what have you just lost? Everything. You've lost your houses, you've lost your businesses, you've lost your business contacts. You've now arrived as muhajirin into Medina al-Munawwara. What do you have with you other than the clothes on your back? Nothing. So what does the Muslim ummah need from one another? Qard, an investment into one another. Because if there is no investment in the newly migrated mu'mineen, how will the ummah survive? How will it flourish? How will it prosper? You understand? But later on, by the time you reach the period of the sixth Imam, how far and wide has the ummah reached? It's now defeated the Persian Empire. It's now defeated the Roman Empire. The level of wealth between people is so much that it's easy for me to give you qard. At the time when the Prophet started his movement, mu'mineen were very, very poor. So for you to come and ask me for a loan, I didn't have anything to give. So if I give, should there be more reward or lesser reward? Which one? More reward. And because the ummah has to survive and prosper at the time of the Prophet, if you ask me for a loan and I don't give it to you, how bad am I? How bad? The Prophet says, paradise is made prohibited to you. Because we are in need of supporting one another. It should be the foundation of ukhuwah, of brotherhood. I am from the Ansar, you are from the Muhajirin. I already have something, you have nothing. If you come to me and ask and I say no, how bad is it? It's so bad. Allah's Messenger says, I prohibit paradise for you. So the encouragement early on with the early mu'mineen was what? When there was difficulty and urgent need, never, never, never stop giving someone. Can you see it? You understand the hadith? Later on, at the time of the 6th Imam alayhi salam, when already people were wealthy and it was normal in the community for me to give qarth, there's no hardship for me to give you qarth. Should the reward be the same as when the early mu'mineen are struggling with their wealth? Of course not. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam says, yes, there is a reward, but it's not as big a reward. It's like giving sadaqah. You understand? This happens a lot through ahadith. Sometimes you see ahadith, Imam gives a huge reward for going for ziyarah of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, correct? Every step that you take is like 1,000 hajj and 1,000 umrah. And sometimes he says, it's 1 hajj and 1 umrah. Why? Because when the evil khulafa said, if you go on ziyarah of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, your head is going to go, in order to encourage ziyarah, what did Imam do? He raised the level of reward on behalf of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and said, every step that you take is like 1,000. When it was easier for you to go to Hajj and there was no threat upon you, did there need to be the same encouragement, same reward? Yes or no? No. So the Imam said, now for you to go on ziyarah is great, but it's like 1 Hajj and 1 Umrah. Can you see? The same thing goes. Now what does that mean for you and I? During an economic downturn, when the needs are greater, the need to invest in mu'mineen and mu'minat is greater. To help them pay off their debts, to help them with their businesses to survive a difficult time, to help them to buy inventory, whatever it may be. When it's a difficult time, which hadith applies to you? Say it louder. The first one. Can you see? But if it applies to you with reward, it also applies to you with the punishment. If now mu'mineen are in need, there is an economic downturn, and people are in need so that they don't lose their houses, God forbid. They don't become bankrupt, God forbid. They don't lose their business, God forbid. And someone comes to you and says, I'm in need of $10,000, and you turn them down, God forbid. Look at what the promise of the Messenger of Allah was. God forbid, Allah makes paradise prohibited to you. Can you see how the application of the hadith works? Does it make sense to you? Are you understanding? Are you following? We have this from time to time. There is an economic downturn, or an individual is going through a hard time. God forbid they are struggling with their debts. God forbid their business has hit a... Does Allah want that person's house to be taken off him? Does Allah want that person's business to fold? Yesterday it was thriving, today it's gone difficult. Where is the money coming from? Now this links last night's discussion with tonight's discussion. Last night we said what? Any surplus above mine and your needs belongs to another. Remember that? Tonight we have said, Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam say it is better for you to give loans over giving charity. Now, let's take this one step further. And I want you to think about this very carefully. In the Islamic system of economics, there was what was known as Baytul Mal, a central governance where all monies are put in and people who need can go there, or the Imam of the community or his wakil or his representative gave from that central banking system. Everybody understand? Okay. Now I'm just doing simple figures with you. Don't worry about the detail for the moment. Just go with me with the figures. Approximately, how many people are here tonight? In total? Can I use a simple number and say 50? Yeah? Is that here or in total? Here. So should we double it and make it easy? 100 people. Yeah? 100 people in the center tonight, mashallah. Imagine, let's just say for the sake of saying, everybody here has some excess money. Yes? So I'm making a simple figure. Every month, $50 excess. 50, 50, 50, 50, 50, 50, 50, 50. Yesterday, what we thought was that $50 is mine for me to spend on whatever I want. Now we realize that it belongs to someone else. If everyone in this room, as an example, had $50 excess, times by 100 people, what would be the amount? How much? 5,000. In the Islamic system of Baytul Mal, that 5,000 would go centrally, and anyone who needed it had access to it. It could be because of their personal situation, could be their business situation. Imagine a community that had that amount centrally available to anyone who was in need, who needed it for their investment. Now, it might be that in this room, on average, people have more than $50 a month as their excess. It might be that on average, it might be $100 or $1,000, just as an example. If there's 100 people and $100, how much does that become? How much? 10,000. And if it's 100 people and $1,000, how much does it become? How much? 100,000. Subhanallah. Shaykh, now we have a mortgage to pay off. But if you have 100 people in this room, ala sabil al-farad, as an example, and everyone on average, some people will have less, some people will have more, so I'm making it as an average, have $1,000 excess. How much is that per month that is available in the community? $100,000, mashallah. Imagine how many people that could genuinely lift out of poverty. Tafhamni? Does everybody understand the vision? Do you understand Islamic economics now? Yeah? Now, of course, someone here may not have any excess. And someone may have $10,000 a month excess. And I'm just making up figures for you to see the vision. There's 100 people in this hall, and on average, $1,000 excess. And you were to pool it centrally into the community, it's $100,000. Imagine anyone now who needs it. Business investment, business idea, paying off something because they're desperate, they're overwhelmed by debts, cannot find a way out, about to lose their house, about to lose their business, have a great opportunity to invest in new inventory. All of a sudden, it's very easy for that person to have it available to them. And this is how redistribution of wealth genuinely works in the Islamic system. And many, many other techniques as well that inshallah are available to you to read in the book and in forthcoming works. But if you've understood tonight's discussion, you can see how quickly the wealth of the community can be utilized for good. How quickly the wealth of the community can change the situation of so many within the community, can buy us so much. We can invest in properties, make the community self-sufficient, invest in businesses, invest in shares, make the community self-sufficient, that you never have to ask, Maulana never has to come, no one from the managing committee has to ask for money again. 1 month, 2 months, 12 months of excess could change the entirety of the situation of the community for generations to come. And this is why this ayah of the Quran, يَسْأَلُونَكَ مَاذَا يُنْفِقُونَ, they ask you, what should we spend in the way of Islam? قُلْ الْعَفْوَ is one of the backbones of the Islamic economic system. Many other verses as well, but this should give you a glimpse into how it works. Tonight we have spoken about qard al-hasana, and linked it back to the idea of excess wealth and how we pool and utilize that excess wealth. Tomorrow night, inshallah, we will talk about 25 charitable avenues in the Quran. As I said yesterday, we normally only know of 4 or 5. Aitam, Aramil, so orphans, widows, masjids, community projects like funding majalis, funding the niyaz, bringing speakers, education. But did you know that there are another 20 avenues to support the ummah, strategic avenues to support the ummah that are mentioned in the Quran? Once we have this excess of, as an example, 100 people times by $50 a month, $1,000 a month, where is that money supposed to go? Not everybody's going to need qard this month. Where does it go? This, inshallah, we will discuss and discover tomorrow night with salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. In days and nights like this, we are commemorating 2 of the great anniversaries in the history of Islam. One is the 100th anniversary of the bulldozing over Jannatul Baqi'. And the second, on the 25th of Shawwal, is the martyrdom anniversary of our 6th Imam, Jafar ibn Muhammad al-Sadiq, salawatullah wa salamuhu alayhi. As you know, in Al-Baqi' we have Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam, Imam al-Sajjad alayhi salam, Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam, and Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam. And maybe, according to some, possibly the grave of Her Eminence Lady Fatima al-Zahra, salawatullah wa salamuhu alayha. Tonight, inshallah, we will remember the Imam of Al-Baqi', and tomorrow we will remember Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam. There's a narration that says that after the event of Karbala, Sayyidah Zainab and Imam al-Sajjad alayhim as-salam had the role of spreading the event, the musibah of Karbala. And every opportunity that they had, they would spread that knowledge, and they would lament and weep at the beheading of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. From time to time, Imam al-Sajjad alayhi salam would be walking the streets, and he might see someone performing the slaughtering of an animal. He would come to it and say, "Oh man, have you given this animal some water?" To which the man would reply, "Yabna Rasulullah, of course I have given this animal some water." To which Imam al-Sajjad would begin to cry and say, "My father Hussein was not given any water on the 10th of Muharram, even though he asked and asked for it." One narration says that one of the companions of Imam al-Sajjad alayhi salam said to him, "Yabna Rasulullah, we want to have a wedding in our household. My son wants to get married. Will you come and bless this occasion?" This was still a period of mourning, and the Imam responded by saying, "It is still a tragic time for us. We are remembering what happened in Karbala when we lost our family members, when our family members were taken captive and paraded from city to city to city, when my auntie Zainab and Kulthum had stones thrown at them, when they had their hijab snatched from them. This is not a time for celebration for us. Please excuse me from coming to your son's wedding." But the man from the Shia was insistent that Imam al-Sajjad alayhi salam would come. Eventually, Imam al-Sajjad said, "I will come, but on the condition that there is someone there, a poet, to be able to recite the Maqtal from Karbala." The man responded by agreeing to this condition. The narration says that as the reciter was giving his poetry, he was describing the events of the martyrdom of Ali al-Akbar. He says that Ali al-Akbar was coming out, And as he was fighting the enemy, that his armor became so heavy for him, and he became so thirsty that he returned back towards the tent. Probably his mother recited a famous line of dua and said, "Oh Allah, you are the one who returned Yusuf back to Yaqub. Return my son back to me." And because a mother's prayer is always answered, Aliyun al-Akbar returned back. He took off his armor. He said to his father, "It is so heavy for me. I am so thirsty. I fear that I will not be able to fight the enemy freely." Aliyun al-Akbar ascends upon his horse a second time and begins to ride back out. Our Dhakireen tell us that Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam follows Aliyun al-Akbar into the battlefield. Every step the horse takes, Imam al-Hussein is following behind him. Our Dhakireen tell us that Aliyun al-Akbar looked behind him and said, "Oh father, why are you following me into the battlefield?" To which Imam al-Hussein would respond by saying, "Oh Ali, if you had a son like I have this son, if I had an Aliyun al-Akbar like this, if you had an Aliyun al-Akbar like this, you too would have followed him into the battlefield. I wish to be able to see you for as long as I can. For the next time I see you, your body will be split open and I will have to have your head in my lap." Aliyun al-Akbar goes out and fights. One Maqtal says that there is a man by the name of Abi Murrah. He is a cowardly man standing with the enemies from the army of Yazid. He shouts, he says, "I will make Hussein weep over this man. I will make him weep over his son." His companions turn to him and say to him, "What do you have with this young man? He has done you no harm. Leave him alone." He says, "No, I want to make Hussein cry over this young man." As Aliyun al-Akbar is fighting, this man, like a coward, hides behind some of the trees. He has in his arm a spear. Aliyun al-Akbar no longer has his armor to protect his chest. As he is fighting to the left and to the right, this man thrusts the spearhead into the chest of Aliyun al-Akbar. One Dhakir says that now Aliyun al-Akbar is on his horse. There is a spearhead emanating from his chest. Abi Murrah lifts Aliyun al-Akbar into the air and throws him to the ground. The enemies surround Aliyun al-Akbar and begin to cut him to pieces. Can you imagine the scene of Imam al-Hussein seeing his son in this state? Returning back to the story, this poet is reciting this maqtal. Imam al-Sajjad alayhi salam is having to listen to the martyrdom of his own brother. The narration says that the man whose son is getting married looks up to look, and where is Imam al-Sajjad? He cannot find Imam al-Sajjad inside the gathering anymore. He leaves the gathering and finds Imam al-Sajjad sitting by the area where the shoes are kept. He sits down beside Imam. He says, "Yabna Rasulullah, why are you sitting outside where the shoes are?" He said, "When the poet began to recite the maqtal of my brother Aliyun al-Akbar, Fatima al-Zahra came to this majlis. She is sitting outside. How can I sit inside while she is crying, sitting outside, sitting by the shoes, listening to the maqtal of her grandson Aliyun al-Akbar?" ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا وأي منقلب ينقلبون إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. Please raise your hands, join me in dua. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to hasten the appearance of Imam al-Mahdi alayhi salam, to allow us to be alongside him at all times in our life and in our death. If we are to pass away from this world before his coming, Ya Allah, raise us from our graves so that we can partake in the victories of Muhammad and Ali Muhammad. We ask you, Ya Allah, help us to understand the Quran better, help us to be able to understand the Islamic economic system better, and help us to be able to participate in it as best as our capacity. We ask you, Ya Allah, all of those mu'mineen and mu'minat around the world who are struggling, please lift them from their circumstances, whatever poverty and gham and khawf that they are living through. Bihaqqi Imam al-Sajjad alayhi salam. Walhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wa salli ya Rabbi ala Muhammadin wa alihi at-tahirin. In honor of our sixth Imam, whose martyrdom we are commemorating. Please recite a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein,
جلتے ہوئے خیموں سے زینب کی صدائی، عباس کہاں ہو تم؟ جلتے ہوئے خیموں سے زینب کی صدائی، عباس کہاں ہو تم؟ جلتے ہوئے خیموں سے زینب کی صدائی، عباس کہاں ہو تم؟ نہ سر پہ رہی چادر، نہ سر پہ رہی چادر، نہ میرا بچا بھائی، عباس کہاں ہو تم؟ جلتے ہوئے خیموں سے زینب کی صدائی، عباس کہاں ہو تم؟ عباس چلے آؤ غموں میں غریبوں کے، بھوکے اور پیاسے ہیں، لوٹے ہیں نصیبوں کے، سجاد کو ہوش نہیں، کلثوم ہے گھبرائی، عباس کہاں ہو تم؟ جلتے ہوئے خیموں سے زینب کی صدائی، عباس کہاں ہو تم؟ جلتی ہوئی ریتی پہ مظلوم کی لاش پڑی، روتی ہے سکینہ بھی بابا کے پاس کھڑی، ہے لال یتیمانہ غربت کی گھٹا چھائی، عباس کہاں ہو تم؟ جلتے ہوئے خیموں سے زینب کی صدائی، عباس کہاں ہو تم؟ ہے شمر کمینے میں معصوم سکینہ کے مارے ہے تماچے بھی، ہے پھول سے گالوں پہ، آ جاؤ چچا غازی، رو رو کے وہ چلائی، عباس کہاں ہو تم؟ جلتے ہوئے خیموں سے زینب کی صدائی، عباس کہاں ہو تم؟ شبیر قرارن میں کئی روز کے پیاسے ہیں، تیروں سے ہوا چلی مظلوم کا لاشا ہے، نہ کفن ملا اس کو، نہ قبر بن پائی، عباس کہاں ہو تم؟ جلتے ہوئے خیموں سے زینب کی صدائی، عباس کہاں ہو تم؟ کلثوم نے سر پیٹا مقتل میں کھڑے ہو کر، اے باپ کے ہاتھوں سے زینب سے رو رو کر، دستار عزت کی سجاد کو پہنائی. عباس کہاں ہو تم چلتے ہوئے خیموں سے زینب کی صدائی. عباس کہاں ہو تم. عباس چلے آؤ خیموں میں غریبوں کے بھوکے اور پیاسے ہیں لوٹے ہیں نصیبوں کے. سجاد کو ہوش نہیں کلثوم ہے گھبرائی. عباس جہاں ہو تم جلتے ہوئے خیموں سے زینب کی صدائی. عباس کہاں ہو تم. ہے شمر کمینے نے معصوم سکینہ کے مارے تماچے بھی ہے پھول سے گالوں پہ. آ جاؤ چچا غازی رو رو کے وہ چلائے. عباس کہاں ہو تم جلتے ہوئے خیموں سے زینب کی صدائی. عباس کہاں ہو تم. مولا حق امام یا حسن یا حسین. مولا حق امام یا حسن یا حسین. یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین. وہ عادل بیمار تھا وہ عادل بیمار تھا. چلنے سے جو لاچار تھا چلنے سے جو لاچار تھا. اور شام کا بازار تھا اور شام کا بازار تھا. اور مصطفیٰ کی بیٹیاں مولا حق امام یا حسن یا حسین. مولا حق امام یا حسن یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین. دیر کی بولا دلی شبیر کی بولا دلی سینے پہ جو شاہ کے پالی سینے پہ جو شاہ کے پالی. جس کی آبا بن میں جلی جس کی آبا بن میں جلی. منہ پر تماچوں کے نشان مولا حق امام یا حسن یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليك يا رسول الله. السلام عليك يا نبي الله. السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين ولي الله. السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين. السلام عليك يا حسن المصطفى. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار ولا جعله الله الآخر الأهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي ابن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين وعلى أئمة المعصومين من ملك وعلى أختك زينب وكلثوم وبنتك سكينة سلام الله وعلى أخيك أبو الفضل عباس بن حيدر القرار جميعا شهداء كربلاء. السلام عليك يا بمار كربلاء علي بن الحسين زين العابدين. السلام عليك يا محمد بن علي الباقر. السلام عليك يا جعفر بن محمد الصادق. السلام عليك يا موسى بن جعفر القاسم. السلام عليك يا علي بن موسى رضا وعلى أختك فاطمة معصومكم. السلام عليك محمد بن علي التقين الجواد. السلام عليك يا علي بن محمد إنك السلام عليك يا حسن بن علي العسكري السلام عليك يا حجة ابن الحسن صلوات الله عليه مهدي صاحب زمان يا ابن الحسن العسكري مولاي يا صاحب الشهوان الأمان يا خليفة الرحمن الأمان يا شريك القرآن الأمان يا مظهر الإيمان الأمان يا إمام السجان حج الله تعالى فرجه وصح الله مخرجه.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم كل وليك حجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تذكره الزكاة وتمتعه فيها قليلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.
السلام عليك يا أهل بيت النبوة وما